Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're doing another State of Gaming, and this is talking about why some games fail and why some succeed, and kind of what the general difference is there, and what's really making this difference. And it's game design. So we're going to talk about a few games here. We're going to talk about some others that are completely on the other side of the success train, and yeah, it's lately I've just been playing some games where some have been absolutely wonderful, some have been fun and enjoyed, some too have surprised me, and others it's just like, man, what are they doing? Like they totally went the wrong way. They designed things to be more frustrating than anything else or annoying. They don't have some things like their previous iterations did in the series. It's just like, what is going on? And so, yeah, we're going to talk about all that. So you can like, sub, all that jazz, but let's go ahead and get into the content. So, one of the games I actually just finished with was Liza P. This came out in, I believe it was, toward the end of 2023. So it has been out for a while. But I did finally finish it, and I got stuck on the first boss, and I pushed my way through it. And I came back and basically, started over and continued on with the story. But yeah, that first boss was just grueling for me. But yeah, I did finally get past him, and was able to continue on. And well over the majority of the game. I mean, there's 11 chapters, and basically all the way through chapter 9 were pretty good. There were some difficulty spikes depending on the chapters, but none of them were too crazy. Except when we got to the very last chapter, chapter 11. This chapter was a little more than twice as long most of the other chapters in the game. So it just went on and on and on and on. So there was a level of exhaustion to that. The other side was that there were ambush points all over the place. Small corridors, beams to balance on or try to, jump over or traverse on. So you could constantly be knocked off and all of that jazz. There was also area of effect with the monsters too, all over the place. Which again was also earlier in the game, of course, and we got to see some of that. But like it was next level of screw you on chapter 11. We also had 3 main bosses in chapter 11. Not just one like we normally did, but 3 of them. And then we also had 3 mini bosses. So we had a total of 6. Now maybe sometimes we had 1 mini boss, and other times we had a main boss at the end of the chapter. But man, this time we had 6. And then, too, the way that the last boss is, they took away one of the game mechanics. Being able to use a NPC helper during the boss fight. Well, you're not able to have that with the very last boss. And it's just like, what happened? I mean, Chapter 11 feels like a totally different game. And if they had kind of started this way, I don't think it would have been as big of a deal. But like that difficulty spike, some of the changes and what they allowed you to do or accomplish, and then the way they did the level design, even just the whole game design seemed to shift in Chapter 11. And I really believe it's made a lot of people quit. My review score is still a strong 8, 8.5, maybe a little bit better. It's still a really good game, but boy, Chapter 11 just really kills the game, I think, for a lot of people, because only 8% actually finished the final boss out of all of the players that tried. And that is an incredibly low number. Now, the reason I bring this up in particular is because we're going to have a DLC later this year called Overture for Lies of P. And I'm excited to try it. But boy, after Chapter 11, I'm thinking there's going to be quite a few people that are just going to skip it. Because Chapter 11 was such a difficulty spike. And usually with those types of games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or Lies of P in this case, you kind of expect more difficulty than what you had in the base game. That's generally what happens. And if it is more difficult than Chapter 11, no one's going to really finish that DLC. And I think with running the risk with how expensive it's probably going to be, which is probably going to be, probably $30 would be my guess, maybe even 40. It's kind of a risk. You want to make sure you enjoy the content, that you have a good time, but holy smokes, if you have that much of a difficulty spike, if it's that grueling, if you get all of these bosses and they're just one right after the other. It totally feels like a different game almost. But other than that, like, it was a really good game. Just Chapter 11 sucked. Also, been playing Death Stranding. Got 25 hours in on my Xbox. And the first few hours, it's like, oh man, like, yeah, especially the first probably 2 or 3 hours is fairly grueling. You don't really feel like there's much going on probably for the first 5 or 6 hours of the game. But yeah, once you get past that, it does start to pick up. You start to notice things you weren't before. And like, they do a good job with a satisfying reward system in the game. As you progress, you can get more gear, you have access to more gear, to craft more gear, you get better levels that have different perks or abilities with that same type of gear that you're used to using. It's just an improvement, which is nice, like a level 2 or a level 3. Also, in the next region, you get vehicles. So you're able to get a bike, you're able to take vehicles from enemy NPCs and use those to get around and carry stuff, which is great. And you get better power suits and all of that kind of stuff. So, like, it does a pretty good job. There's also a hidden multiplayer aspect to the game. So while you are not directly playing with anybody, you're playing passively with all of the other members in the game, regardless of what console they're on. And this is really cool because you can also build structures to be helpful, not just for yourself, but also for other players. So when you build something or they build something, it also transposes or kind of crosses the plane, if you will, into other players' games, and you can see those structures. You can also help build those other structures by contributing materials. And then you can, ultimately see the finished product that you all have been working on. And you're able to see ladders, you're able to see climbing equipment, you're able to see vehicles, you're able to share boots and weapons and your power suits and everything. You're also able to pick up people that gear have lost, or that, you're also to pick up gear, that people have lost. And you can deliver it back to them, or you can actually help them complete a deliver. Because, there are some enemies in the world, and that can make you lose some of your gear, some of your deliveries that you're trying to make to, bring America back to what it used to be before the apocalypse, basically. I don't want to spoil too much if you want to play it for yourself. But, like, they did a good job designing this kind of underlying multiplayer culture in the game and a way of cooperativeness. Even just walking into different signs that are on your path or that are close by gives you buffs to your stamina and to your stress. And those, of course, have an effect on your gameplay as well and what you're able to encounter and deal with. And so even though a lot of these little teeny things and nuances are small, the game design is really geared toward a helping and multiplayer co-op experience, which is really cool. Again, you don't have to partake in that, but man, when you do, with me personally, when I do, I feel like I'm actually a part of a team. I'm actually a part of another group of people that's trying to get the job done, trying to get stuff built, thinking about other people coming before me, because everything too also deteriorates. So there's a level of repair that needs to be done. You also need to replace equipment and gear. And then you also, with stuff that you find, you can, give it back to its owner. And that reminds me of what it used to be like in the 90s and early 2000s. That's how it was in school. That's how it was in church. That's kind of how it was with the same group of friends that I had or people that I knew through college and stuff. There was just a sense of community, and you helped people simply because that was the right thing to do. And the game does a good job of representing that. And so, yeah, it's actually been fun to do. It's been a blast. Also with Death Stranding 2, there's some simulation style mechanics that can be pretty frustrating, but it does give you something to do when you're having to go from A to B. Otherwise, let me tell you, it would be really, really boring. There's also boss fights, which I was surprised about. There's also, balancing, organizing your loads, again, replacing and repairing your gear, and also just going pee. Going to the bathroom out there. There's some stuff to do. There's some things to deal with. And when all of this works on coming together, you get a sense of the world that's been made in Death Stranding. They've done an excellent job, and I'm actually excited for Death Stranding 2 when it actually gets here. So yeah, it'll be really interesting, and I'll continue to play through the game. I'm probably about halfway with 25 hours in. halfway across the country anyway. But yeah, the latter half is going to be more difficult. At least that's what the game has told me. When we also take a look at Stalker 2, just the horror, the low light, the lack of equipment, having to deal with bleeding and food and water and radiation. You got to manage all of this stuff. It's very much kind of like a survival horror aspect. And there's a lot of other NPCs that you can also interact with that can give you buffs or make it more difficult in a certain area, or you can have ambush points. It kind of feels like a Fallout environment, except just like Ukrainian Russian style, and it is a blast of a game. And two, they did a fun job with building the actual world out there, like Chernobyl, and being able to actually see that as an iconic place, and then too the networking you're able to do as a stalker out there. They're also going to be adding multiplayer to the game at some point, which is going to be great. And yeah, sounds like it'll be crossplay, so you'll be able to have Xbox and PC players, and you'll be able to interact with each other's worlds, or maybe even be in the worlds and help with different stuff. And two, like the game really doesn't tell you much of what's going on. So being a player that's never really been before in Stalker, I died a ton, finding anomalies and dealing into different enemies and getting ambushed and getting caught in a storm where the whole sky is red and going crazy and lightning, and I just magically die because my radiation went crazy. And it's really cool. There is a learning curve, of course, just like at Death Stranding. There's a learning curve. But like they do a good job of, again, creating the environment, what the apocalypse in this scenario would kind of look like, and also giving you a type of job, a sense of accomplishment in the game. And it's not just accomplished in just 30 minutes or a couple of hours. I mean, it takes some work. All of these games do that I've listed so far. There's also Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is probably one of my top 5 games. I got a buddy that just started playing. I'm going to help him out when I can, and it's just going to be a really fun drop-in, drop-out co-op experience going through that game. Again, the different factions, the different environments, the different weapons and attachments and gear, being able to steal anything that you can see with bikes and cars and trucks and technicals and armored vehicles and attack helicopters and airplanes. I mean, just the list goes on. Anything that is at your disposal, and the game is built in a way to let you be adaptable to whatever is happening for you to have mission success. The missions, too, aren't necessarily extremely repetitive. So there's actually quite a few different locations to go to. There's different types of missions to do. There's interrogations that you get to be a part of. There's some investigations you get to do. There's espionage and stealth missions and sabotage and assassinations. I mean, there is just a massive amount of types of ways to get everything done in that game. And ultimately, you get to do it your way. Whatever direction, whatever you want to focus on, however you want to plan, do it solo or with other people or with NPCs as well if you want a squad of them, and you can order them around in the game. And this is by Ubisoft. I mean, in my opinion, Wildlands is peak Ubisoft in 2017. It's a wonderful game. Right now, my wife and I were going through Split Fiction, and no spoilers, but we will be doing a review fairly soon talking about the game. But yeah, Split Fiction, again, is just built really well with different environments, some side stories, working through the cooperativeness and the relationship and the character development, the story that you're going through, and having to rely on the person that you're co-oping with. And it is a cool way to actually be able to just kind of bond. You know, whether it's just you guys are friends or boyfriend, girlfriend, or you're married or whatever. It's just a cool way to actually play a game because you have to rely on the other player. And the puzzles are pretty varied. Some of them, too, are also pretty challenging, and you have to work together. You have to encourage each other, and maybe that's actually the point with some of these. You actually have to encourage each other, support each other through the process of actually getting through the game. Because some of these difficulty spikes are even challenging for me. And I've been playing video games for a long time, so you can imagine what it's like for my wife. But it's still a cool experience. Even though she is frustrated, she's definitely having a challenging time. She still wants to continue to play. So yeah, it won't be too long before we actually finish the game. if everything goes right at home. Because yeah, life's been busy lately. There's also the Tomb Raider remasters. These are some wonderful remasters done by Saber Interactive and published by Aspyr. And they've been a blast to play. Again, the puzzles and the design and the type of guns you have and some of the gear, even in Tomb Raider 4, being able to combine things together and like having to figure out stuff with weight or fire or water or whatever, and just running through the story of going after artifacts, having people that you're basically working against and trying to survive against, and ultimately with some boss fights too. Again, playing Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, and now going through 4 again, and I'll go through 5 and 6. It's been fun just to enjoy and play those games. I think too of God of War is the same type of thing. And then we have games that seem to completely miss the mark. We take a look at Suicide Squad, which, man, that is boring. It feels cheap. It's all about microtransactions and live service. Forcing people to grind for dozens of hours just to get their next character every season, which is ridiculous. Or you can pay $10. Screw you. Like, they're purposefully designing the game to get you to spend money just to cave in, to keep the pressure up of the grind, to get you to just quit and give in. No. I just didn't finish the game. I played basically an hour and a half and I was done. That was all I needed to play. Veilguard was another one. This was, again, supposed to be Dreadwolf, supposed to be a live service game. Oh, wow, that's live service isn't really being appreciated anymore, so let's tweak some things. It was delayed some, but we did eventually get Veilguard last year in October. But again, they focused on just the wrong stuff. It wasn't an RPG experience. The focus was, I don't know, making you just kind of go through the game. Because compared to the other Dragon Age games, man, it was completely different. With the character development, the decisions that you could make, and how that would affect the game and your party, and, I don't know. Even looking at the first trailer they released, which looked wonderful, dark and gritty and brooding, this was kind of like Happy Land, where you took time to, instead of Suicide Squad popping purple pimples, you popped orange and red ones in Veilguard. It's like, man, is that really the gaming experience at this point? And it was very just hack and slash. There wasn't a lot of strategy to what you were doing. It's just kind of like, hey, let's all focus and just kill this guy. Woo! That sucks. And this was supposed to be a AAA game. So was Suicide Squad. Let's talk about Battlefield 2042. Oh, my word. Battlefield 1, in my opinion, was peak Battlefield. I hope we can get back to that again, or at least pretty close at some point. But boy, Battlefield 2042 was not it. They spent, 18, 24 months after launch, quote, fixing the game, fixing the maps, bringing back some old mechanics that they had, like classes, instead of like, oh yeah, you get to be these like Call of Duty warriors with your fancy abilities. It's like, no, give me a gun, give me a crew, and let's go. And that's what Battlefield used to be. It all used to be focused around teamwork and focusing and helping each other and working toward the goal and objective. But they just kind of Call of Duty-fied the thing. And then the Battle Pass and all the microtransactions on top of it. And even though Battlefield 2042 could have had I think, a fairly good campaign with fighting over resources and having the fighting of different factions and militaries and paramilitary groups, I think that could have been actually pretty interesting. But again, they didn't even do a campaign. Missed opportunity in my book. Well, they learned from that one. We're actually going to have a campaign with the next Battlefield. But then, too, not having the class system that we've had since forever. See, folks, the game mechanic doesn't necessarily need to change. There just needs to be a more streamlined and less frustrating experience for the player to enjoy. And I think Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring, and even Armored Core 6 are great examples of this. Because let's face it, Demon Souls, that's kind of brutal. Dark Souls is a little better. We had Dark Souls 2, incredibly difficult game, though made also by a different developer. And then we had Dark Souls 3, which I think is the easiest to get into. And then we had, Bloodborne, in there as well at some point, which was pretty fun and pretty good. A good mix, especially some of the combat mechanics were pretty awesome. But yeah, ultimately Elden Ring. What a blast. What a blast. And while some of the difficulties with Dark Souls are pretty frustrating, just like Split Fiction, you have a team that can help you through it, which is great. And I feel like Liza P should have had that. Stalker 2 will have that at some point, which is great. Death Stranding has that to a point, because again, you get to see kind of the multiplayer side of things passively. And then, of course, that's how Battlefield has been designed in the past and should be today and also in the future. The focus is cooperativeness. This is why Helldivers has blown up. It's also a satire and hilarious, actually. And but yeah, Helldivers 2 has been a wonderful game and experience to play with people because of the cooperativeness. You know, and just a side note, when we really think about it, the best moments that we have are with people. It's not to say that there aren't frustrating experiences or that we can get hurt by others. But ultimately, people are what make life worth living. And maybe I should retitle this State of Gaming, but like part of the game design should be about the immersion. It should be about the passion, telling a story, and just Suicide Squad, Veilguard, Battlefield, even taking a look at Star Wars Outlaws and reviewing that. Oh, man. That was so frustrating. I'm a big sci-fi fan. Okay, there were some aspects that were there, but they weren't fleshed out enough. Some of the other mechanics that seemed really simple, you couldn't even do. There never really felt like there was any risk in the game. They also, you know, if you ever got caught when you were supposed to, quote, be stealthy, they wouldn't let you fight your way through it like you think you would with if you were Han Solo. Again, they didn't even pick Han Solo. They went with all of these other pretty much almost full female cast of characters. Man. I mean, and it was just frustrating. It was hard to get behind anything, really. It was challenging, and I think the potential was there. And it wasn't just because it was women. Don't think it was just because of that. It was really the game design. Again, it comes down to game design. That is the most important thing. But it's like not being able to take my weapon with me takes me out of it. Not being able to steal a speeder bike takes me out of it. Not be having a crash because I'm looking through my scope or I'm looking through my viewfinder takes me out of it. And I crashed constantly with that stuff. The game progression bugs for PlayStation 5 and having to basically start all the way over after 8 or 10 hours. Yeah, that takes you out of it. If publishers are listening, man, the game design is of the utmost importance. And it all has to come together, like the other games that I listed. And while Liza P isn't perfect, it's still a pretty good game. It's just that Chapter 11 is completely designed in a different way. I don't know if they were running out of time or running out of ideas or exactly what happened, but it's got a completely different feel to it, and that difficulty spike just takes you out of it. It is this grindy, nasty fest of just trying to finish the game, and it's not fun anymore. So you got to be careful with your difficulty spikes. You got to focus on character development that is outside the character, but more about principles and values and morals, things we can all get behind. The struggle of relationships, the frustration and depression of loneliness, struggling to just make enough money to survive. A lot of us feel those things. So why can't we go back to making stories about that? That's what was great with even the new God of War games. While it wasn't exactly type of style of gameplay that I wanted, it's really cool to see the character development between Kratos and Atreus. And being a dad now, that hits harder to home. So yeah, the game design is of the utmost importance. And this is something I think that's important to say too. If a game is designed poorly from launch, a delay of a year isn't going to fix it. Suicide Squad had delays. Veilguard had delays. Battlefield had delays. Star Wars Outlaws had delays. Liza P didn't have delays. Stalker 2 didn't have delays. Well, they had a war, so that's one reason, but not for them wanting to delay it. Death Stranding, as far as I know, didn't have delays. Split Fiction didn't have delays. Neither did the Tomb Raider remasters. Neither did Wildlands. Again, the game design, the very start of the process matters. And you got to think about the end goal. And I feel like for some of these games that have been missing the mark, and for some that will continue to miss the mark, I think it's important to remember that you got to think of the entire picture. You got to think of the entire process from A to B and the points in between, and then build it. The characters, the voice acting, the game design, the level design, the music, the environments, the engine you're using, the polish of the game, it's all got to work together to immerse that player. And you got to trust your team too. The development side, you got to listen to everybody at the table, take everyone's consideration, take their concerns, and build the best game you can as a team. It's the same with any other job. If it's just you don't have to worry about that. But when there's other people involved, you got to do your best, put your best foot forward. But yeah, game design, man, it is really showing how important it is. And it's just incredible to see with the gaming industry that we have today. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in. You can always follow me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. You can also follow me over at Twitch at Don't Tread on the. Don't forget, too, we also have the playlist, which you can basically help you get around and get the 1,000 videos that I have on the channel. But yeah, we have gaming news. We have deep dives like this when there's something that I want to chat about. We have gaming news once a week, which that always shows up usually on the weekend. We also have playthroughs, which we're doing right now, of Tomb Raider and Halo 1. And then yeah, we also have initial looks and reviews, which there will be some of those coming pretty soon. So, like of Split Fiction, Atom Fall, and Assassin's Creed Shadows. So stay tuned for those. With that, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well. And yeah, think about it too. Like, wow, some of these principles are important to understand in video games. They're important to understand too in the real world. Take time to invest. Be a part of the team. Okay? Don't just go it alone. You don't have to. But that means you can't just be all about you either. There's got to be some give and take there. So with that, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one.